Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.
From St. Louis Public Radio. This is St. Louis on the Air.
And I was like, wow, this is amazing, on the full stage, and oh my goodness.
Climbing the arch, ripping the veil off the veiled prophet.
Right.
Part of a strategy to enhance our protest for fair employment.
Is this material, Kathy, that lends itself well to the stage?
Oh, yes, most definitely.
And hopefully this spreads and goes to other cities, and people do it in Kansas City, and they do it in Chicago, and they do it in Nashville.
Theater that leaves people thinking and talking.
I'm Jeremy Goodwin. A new collective of St. Louis theater makers has assembled to create a documentary play about the efforts of Percy Green and the activist group he co-founded called Action. Specifically, their famous infiltration of the Veiled Prophet Ball in 1972. The play is called Action. Colin McLaughlin wrote it, and there's a preview Friday night, and it plays at the Gaslight Theater in the Central West End this weekend and next weekend. That's through November 20th. Joining me in studio to talk about Action are director Kathryn Bentley, who also co-produced the play. Kathryn's an associate professor of theater performance at Southern Illinois University, where she's artistic director of the Black Theater Workshop. And musician and actor Miles Brenton, who is playing Percy Green in the play. Kathryn Bentley and Miles Brenton, thanks so much for coming here. Welcome to the program.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Good to be here.
So Percy Green, of course, has a long career as a political activist, specifically someone who's fought against anti-Black racism in St. Louis in many different ways over the years. Co-founder of the group Action. Of course, he climbed the in-progress Gateway Arch in 1964 with Richard Daley and succeeded in getting contractors to start hiring Black people to work on that project. So, Kathy, with all that, how did you settle on this one chapter in his life and the life of Action to base a play on?
Well, really, as Colin was thinking about how we can best honor Percy Green and the members of the Action group, there's so much. This could be a play that's like 10 hours long, right? I mean, how do you find one thing about Percy? I think with what we were thinking and how this group of producing partners got together, we felt like this was just something that was really pivotal in changing the landscape of St. Louis and really bringing to light some of the things that a lot of St. Louisans don't know about. A lot of folks do, know about the Arch and maybe don't know the history behind the Veiled Prophets. And so we felt like this would really give some of that information, bring it to light a lot clearer.
And reading the play, it's clear that Colin McLaughlin, one of your co-producers, the playwright, he wanted to get a lot of historical detail in there. Where did that come from? How was Percy Green involved in the development of this?
Well, Colin is we've collaborated for several years, and just a very thoughtful and thorough playwright who does really get into the historical facts about what he's writing about. And so he spent a lot of time with Percy. He spent a lot of time before there was a reading of an earlier version of this play. And he spent a lot of time with Percy, was able to spend time with folks who were involved in Action. So he really did make use of those resources as a way to write this play.
Miles, did you meet with Percy?
I briefly just dropped in by happenstance. I had a gig at Blueberry Hill, and Kathy, Colin, and Percy Green were having a production meeting. And I just was in the room, and I just showed my face, was like, hey, I'm playing you in this play. He was like, what? I was like, yeah. He was like, oh, cool. So it was kind of amazing to see him in person after the workshop that we did, where I saw him online and got to see somewhat of his mannerisms and watched all of his interviews, and to see that person that I'm playing there in the flesh was quite an incredible occurrence.
Did he happen to give you any tips?
No.
Well, you mentioned looking at historical footage, watching some interviews that he had given. What challenges do you have as an actor playing a real person who walks amongst us? And a lot of audience members probably know what he looks like, what he sounds like, what he moves like, and he might be one of those audience members.
Right. And the thing is that you can never know enough. You can never know enough about this character that you're playing because it's a real person. And so you can read as much as you want to read. And I think actually that's part of the beauty of it because you can just continue to get deeper into the process of learning about this character. And there's always something new to find. And as we're going through the process of learning about this play and learning about the story and acting the story, the relationships between the characters become more authentic and deeper as well. So I'd say it's just a blessing and a very magical experience.
Well, the play does move forward and back in time a little bit to offer some context, but it focuses on the action activists who are planning their direct action targeting the Veiled Prophet organization, which remains controversial today. Mm-hmm. We've had Percy Green as a guest here a few times on the show, and so let's listen to a clip from 2019. This is Percy Green on the show talking about why he was targeting the Veiled Prophet organization.
But first and foremost, I want to make it... I want it to be understood clearly that Action's protest of the White Veiled Prophet festivities was strictly part of a strategy to enhance our protest for fair employment at certain big businesses, not to be part of it. In fact, Action's view of the White Veiled Prophet as a Ku Klux Klan organization by another name.
And in 2019, at the time, we did invite representatives from the VP onto the show. They didn't take us up on it at the time. But every once in a while, the world outside St. Louis learns about Veiled Prophet as a fresh round of controversy. So they did put out a statement last year. I'll just mention, they said, we sincerely apologize for the actions and images from our history. Additionally, our lack of cultural awareness was and is wrong. We are committed to change. And today, VP categorically rejects racism in any form. Going back to 1972, it was very much a closed, seems like a semi-secret society that appears involved in protecting the privilege of the moneyed white elite in town. Mm-hmm. Hearing Percy talk about the strategy behind this, Action had a great sense of theater, which I think a lot of great activists do. I mean, climbing the arch, ripping the veil off the Veiled Prophet. Right. So is this material, Kathy, that lends itself well to the stage?
Oh, yes, most definitely. I mean, so the Percy's group, Action Committee to Improve Opportunities for Negroes, what I've really enjoyed getting to know more about them is that sense of theater that was involved. I mean, they really got into how can we bring to light the issues that we think are important. Well, as a theater artist, I know the best way is to get people to pull them in, touch their hearts, do something that's going to make them remember. And so the fact that they used a lot of theatricality in their activism really intrigues me. And it definitely informs this production because you see this group in a space together, just yes-anding, improving into a way to build this interruption and disruption of an event.
And as written, the play is very fast-paced. There's overlapping dialogue. There's multimedia elements in the form of archival photographs that I think you recreated. How did that work?
Oh, well, we have wonderful designers and pulling footage, pulling pictures that are, let's say, make this a multimedia event. So you get to see some of the actual pictures from the events that we are dramatizing. And
did you include the actual cast members in these photos as if they were there at the time?
We didn't for this production,
okay.
just some choices about this production, but look forward to that for the movie. That's what I keep telling people.
Okay.
The big motion picture, I look forward to fully implementing that aspect of it.
Miles, when you're on stage and there's things like newspaper headlines flashing behind your archival photographs, does that help inform your ability to bring the story to life? Or are those like footnotes that you kind of want to get past?
I mean, it's, I walked into rehearsal the other day and I saw the projections for the first time and I was like, wow, this is amazing, on the full stage. And oh my goodness, what a talented production team that we have. We're incredibly fortunate in that way. And to be able to tell this story, not only with our voices, but also with visual presentation and also with sound, makes it an incredible, once in a lifetime experience. So reserve your tickets, folks.
And these opening shows, they are free, right?
Oh, all of our. So the Producing Collaborative, Action Art Collaborative, I'm one of the founding members of that, founding producers. Our mission is to make sure that St. Louis stories are accessible to everyone in St. Louis. We want to highlight these social justice issues that we feel are important here in St. Louis, both in our history and in our present. And we want to make sure that everyone has accessibility to that. So our tickets are free. We want people to be there. We want discussions to be had. We want change to be made. And of course, there are ways that people can donate, but we just want you to come in the door, and then we can have further discussion and make some change happen in St. Louis.
Well, some other artists you collaborate with on this are the musicians Anita Jackson and Ryan Marquez.
Yes.
They compose a theme that goes with the show. And
yes.
I think just hearing it gives you a sense of the vibe of the play. So let's hear a little bit of that.
For the entire world, Mr. Percy Green.
So many images come to mind. How does that inform what the show is all about?
Oh, to me, that's the beat. That's the heartbeat. And when Anita played this for me for the first time, I was like, yes. I got very excited because when I read this play and when I think about this group of folks that were part of this activist group, I feel it's that drive, that heartbeat towards change. And so so I can't even, we're dancing in our seats. Hey.
We have to adjust our headphones. They're falling off here. Doing a period piece like this, Miles, how much are the 70s in your head here?
Oh, man, the 70s live in my soul now. Everybody tell me that I'm an old soul, so this is like second nature for me. I feel right at home.
Yeah. Well, in the play, when you get to the climactic Veiled Prophet Ball of 1972, we hear about it from the perspective of the two actors who are playing Jane Sauer and Gina Scott. Those were two white women who were part of Action, and the strategy was that they would probably get further that night than someone with the profile of Percy Green would or any of their black compatriots.
Yes.
In this environment. And we hear from them. It becomes a bit of a memory play a little bit. But we have a clip of Percy Green talking about what happened after they infiltrated that ball with some tickets and pretended to be regular guests. This, again, is from 2019. He's speaking with guest host Shula Newman.
They went to the balcony. Jane Sauer set up the diversionary by dropping the leaflets at one end of the balcony to cause most of the people's attention to go in that direction, while Jana came down the cables, I guess. Right. She came down to the first floor there, and then, of course, it is true that one of the cables pulled away from the ceiling, and she fell about 6 feet, knocking the wind out of her. She then walked around behind the stage, come up behind the white VP and snatched his gear off, his headgear off, and threw it out into the middle of the floor there.
That's some wild stuff.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So that's theater. Okay, that's theater, and the fact even that they had planned, they'd made plans about what was going to happen, but the fact that in the moment, she saw the opportunity to swing off that cable, we're still like, just in rehearsal going, oh my gosh, and she lived, right? She was hurt, but she lived. So yeah, some wild
Did she break
stuff.
some ribs?
She did. She was injured, ribs, and she had some ankle issue. Yeah, she was a little banged up.
But first she got up off that floor and someone attempted to assist her, and she said, "No, no, no,
that's right.
I'm fine."
Yeah.
We won't spoil all the juiciest bits of the play, but there's some funny details there funny from this perspective. At the time, it was very, very intense.
Yeah.
But the way these women sort of infiltrated this unfamiliar scene and thought on their feet and figured out, I'm going to climb down that cable.
Right.
And will it support my weight? We'll find out. Answer no.
Yeah.
Right. Yep, exactly. Mission driven, though, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's like because they knew they had a goal, a mission, and they knew they had a team behind them. There lots of planning went into all of these actions that they did. So, yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and I think the public who then sees these actions might not always realize the amount of planning that went into this and the strategizing and the years of strategizing, really.
Exactly.
Miles, what can theater play a role in political movements?
Absolutely.
Can a play like this have a piece of the discussion? How does that work?
Absolutely. I mean, all of the plays, all of the theater work that I've done this year, from Big Machine to the B play to Action, has all been driven by social change. And we've been telling stories that are pertinent to what's going on in our environments right now. And, whether that's like the B play talking about environmental problems. So same thing with Big Machine. But now in Action, we're not only just telling a story about, people who are fighting for change, fighting against racism, but it's also a St. Louis story, and we know these people, and we've met these people, and we see these people on the street. And so, it's going to be amazing, I think, that when, Kathy is walking down the street, or I'm walking down the street, or one of our castmates, Colin, is walking down the street, people will be like, oh, yeah, that's that cat that told that story about St. Louis, and now we know these. And so I hope that this can be somewhat of an igniter in somebody's soul, in somebody's heart, to want to do more of this and want to tell their friends about it. And hopefully this spreads and goes to other cities, and people do it in their cities, and they do it in Kansas City, and they do it in Chicago, and they do it in Nashville, Tennessee, and they tell the stories of their cities to the people that live there.
Kathy, I know you're in the heat of getting this together right now, and you've got your eyes on that first preview Friday and just getting it all together. But with that part understood, what would you like this production to do in this community?
Well, I think much as what Miles said, I wanted to start conversations. I'm committed to doing theater that leaves people thinking and talking and ready to jump into being accomplice and making change happen. And so I find myself, here in my career continuing to do that. That's what I'm committed to. So I want this to be a catalyst for folks who maybe didn't know. We have several generations even involved in this production. And we have different levels of understanding and knowledge about this particular event. So what I want is for this to inform people about this particular event and how does this show up in how we relate to each other now in St. Louis. Let's have these discussions. Let's make some change happen.
And I spoke with Colin McLaughlin, the playwright, and he said in his interviews with the Action folks from back in the day, it wasn't about trading memories and stories so much, but they said, we want the younger kids to see this play and to know what's going on. Miles, can you be an agent of change from the stage?
I hope so. My job is to tell this story as best as I can. And as authentically as I can. And, also my job isn't done once I'm off the stage. Once I'm off the stage, now it's time to have a conversation about what we just saw and, essentially empower people to put the power back in their hands.
Yeah. Yeah, and we will be, the Action Arts Collaborative is committed to bringing this to schools in the form of a filmed video presentation of this in the future. So we're looking forward to that, being in the schools and having these conversations with young people and making sure that they know the history.
And looking for a way for the play to have a life moving on.
Yes.
Well, that's actually all the time we have. That was such a great conversation. Thank you for being here. It's really been a pleasure. We're here talking with Kathryn Bentley and Miles Brenton. They're the artists, some of the artists behind Action, the story of Percy Green and Action, and some of their work back in the late 60s and early 70s. It's at the Gaslight Theater this weekend and next weekend. Kathryn Bentley, Miles Brenton, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
This episode was produced by Jeremy Goodwin and Danny Wistentowski.
Audio engineering and podcast design by Aaron Dorr. Our production intern is Avery Rogers. Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Our podcast proudly supports St. Louis artists by using music from Life Creative Group.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations, and leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thank you.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com